how did you meet Jimmy?
Oh gosh, I don't remember how I met Jimmy. It's probably some crazy party somewhere. I really don't. Jimmy was a little bit kind of larger than life for me, and he was kind of he was a free spirit, and he was, this kind of avant-garde guy that was doing kind of crazy things, and he was also kind of the cool crowd, he was like the younger, cooler crowd that had come into the valley. At the point I met him, I think I had 2 kids, and he had Pascal, but somehow he was raising him in a very different way than I was raising my kids. He was super cool, and so I don't remember exactly when I met him. We became friends when we worked together on this project, and it was late, and it was the last year of his life that we really got to know each other, when we were working on this project for IPNC, where we did a fruit swap from DDO, and presented. We each made some wine from the same vineyard and presented it at this IPNC seminar. So we were working together through that season. That's where we really got to know each other, and I realized that he was a very actually thoughtful and sensitive guy, and not just wild and crazy. Yeah.
So tell us more about you're talking about kind of free spirit and also sensitive and thoughtful. So tell us kind of what you mean.
Well, he was someone that had so much. When you talk about integrity, he just had so much integrity about what his vision was and what he was trying to do. And that was early, so that was early 2002, 2003 when we really got to know him. And he just, there's a lot of people like him in the industry now that kind of have these visions, and they don't care kind of about following tradition or doing what has kind of been done, but he was the first of that kind to come into this valley, I think, that really wanted to do things differently. And he wanted to grow grapes differently. He wanted to make different types of wine. He wanted to make wine differently. So it was all a little, to me it was a little, what's this guy trying to prove? What's he why can't he just do it the way we're doing a good thing here, let's just keep going. And so when I finally got to know him, I realized that he had very strong feelings about what he was doing and his vision for the wines he wanted to make and how he wanted to work in the vineyards. And it was impressive. It was very impressive, and it was way more thoughtful than I thought he was. Yeah. I thought he was doing it just to be different, but he was doing it because he really, really, really believed in it.
So what was the wine industry like that Jimmy came into?
So late 90s. I don't know when he started at Kinsey. Was it? Where did he start? Kinsey, I think.
I think it was like 98 or
was it 98?
Yeah.
And then I knew him when he moved over to Mysara and was starting his label, and he came into an industry that was just starting to see people that had education, first of all. It was kind of that transition of people with a lot of passion to people that actually knew what they were doing. So had been educated or had worked around in different places, and so he was part of that young new wave that he knew what he was doing. He was coming into an industry that was still pretty small, and you could make a mark. You could make yourself known, and it was a fun time in the industry. There was a lot of young, fun people around, and it was very much everyone getting together. It wasn't these little diverse groups of people. It was if there was a party in McMinnville at Jimmy's house, you'd go, and everybody would be there, and it was so fun. And he was a very vibrant guy. and attracted people to him. So, yeah, it was an interesting time to come into the industry. I think it's when you could really make a mark and make a change and kind of follow your vision pretty easily. I think there's more obstacles now to doing that.
So on that note, what kind of impact or mark did he have on the industry?
I think he brought attention to obviously the biodynamic program, which was in its infancy at that point. There was a few people, but he believed wholly, and so he brought a lot of attention to that. And his focus on white wines was a different thing. I think that everybody was focusing on Pinot, and he was really excited by white wine. That was something that he brought to the table that was refreshing, I think. His focus on Rieslings and so forth. He was just, he just seemed he just had a real, I'm trying to think, as a whole, what did he bring to the industry? Well, he brought just kind of this aspiration, I think, for people that you could start something that you really believed in and follow it through and see where it went and find rewards doing that if you really believe in it. And I think that for me that's what it was. It was more like about this guy like just doing this on his own, and he did it. And it was really impressive. And he did it the way he wanted to do it. That's what was so cool. Yeah, and he didn't care. It wasn't Pinot or it wasn't this or what, it was whatever he wanted to do. So he kind of brought that spirit to us, I think. Yeah.
So take us through kind of the events around his death. I know it was pretty sudden, but sort of the days leading up to and immediately after, from beginning to end as you remember it.
Oh, surrounding his death. Well, it was a good period for him. He had a really great girlfriend. His son and my son are the same age, and so I remember a party that summer before he died that was so fun, and the flamethrowers in the streets and the paella and it was just crazy fun, and Pascal and my son were kind of off playing together, and I thought that's such a wonderful thing that they're gonna grow up together in the wine industry, and and then we heard about his death, and we were down at the coast actually, and with Adam Campbell and his family, and we had just gone crabbing, and we got the news, and we were just stunned. I mean, it was unreal, because he was just like so full of life. I mean, if there's one person that was like full of life, it was him. And so the days after that, and that was leading up to harvest. So that was just kind of the last days before we started. And so there was this kind of call for help, and Sam and Cheryl, I think, took the helm on that and called around people that might help out. And I was peripheral to this a little bit. I wasn't best friends with Jimi. I hadn't been with him for decades. I really had just gotten to know him. And so I felt pretty honored when they called and said, do you mind taking on some Pinot Blanc? I was like, oh my God, of course, I would love to do that. So yeah, it was kind of fun to have that collaboration. I think it was kind of cathartic for a lot of us to have that kind of collaboration of, working together on something that really was going to help. It was something that we felt like we were doing for him. And there was a lot of thought and care put into how to do it. Like how are you going to make that wine so it reflects what Jimi would want? And so there was a lot of discussion around that. And it was really fun to get together and be able to kind of talk about his winemaking and try to follow it through somehow. So yeah, I played a minor role. I took on some Pinot Blanc. I made some Pinot Blanc for him. It wasn't a big deal, but but I think it was kind of that leading up to it and the aftermath of feeling like you did something and helped out.
So when you did approach that wine, trying to from his mindset, what were you hoping to accomplish?
Whew. He was making really, in my mind, really kind of brilliant white wines, like really beautifully structured wines. And it was a vineyard that I'd never worked with before, so it was one that I didn't know that much about. So, I lent on, kind of what did he do? That was the first question. You'd go back and see what he did. And I don't think it was anything big for me. I think the people that were making Pinot Noir or between Rieslings or things like that, that was pressure. For me, this was a kind of a little thing that he did. It wasn't a big part of his production. And so I just, I think I took what advice I had and tried to do the best I could. I don't remember doing like major differences, I don't remember like crazy things at all. I just think it was keeping your mind around what would Jimmy do? What would Jimmy do? What would Jimmy do? And making sure that you were kind of being true to that. So, yeah.
Would the same scenario be possible as it happened in 2004 if it happened today?
You mean if this happened in the industry, somebody happened? Gosh. Yeah, I think so. I think that there's been some evidence of that with people having personal tragedies here and there, and people jumping in and helping out where they can, whether it's financially or loaning equipment or whatever it is. I think that can still happen. I think it's, like I said, I think it's just kind of a little more diverse. Like somebody in the industry could get sick and die or whatever. I may have never met them. It happens now. There's people in this industry I've never met, which is strange to me, but there's probably a lot. And so I think everybody has their little community in this industry, and but I think it still is one that's very much supportive and collaborative and work together and do what you can do to help out. And I think it would still work. I think it would still happen. We had another incidence of this with Bryce Bagnall, who had Lou Gehrig's disease, and that was a little bit later. And everyone came together and made wine for him. So it happens, and I think it would happen still. So that's the kind of thing that we need to make sure continues.
So what was it like when you met with Janie?
Oh, that was funny. I really didn't think that was going to work. She came up and she didn't know anything about this industry and the community and she seemed very much and this is all my perspective, and I may be wrong because again I didn't know Jimmy as long, but she seemed out of her element, completely out of her element, and I thought, this is nice, she's trying to do this. There's no way. You have to devote yourself to it. You have to really do it. You can't just kind of fly in and out. And so I didn't have a lot of hope. I thought it was a really nice thing she was trying to do for that vintage, and then it probably would go away. So yes, to see where she's taken this thing and completely devoted herself to it and protected it and remained true to Jimmy's vision is just remarkable. It's really a testimony to her.
So you didn't think the Brooks Winery would still be around in 2017?
No, there is no way I thought that it would be around. It was a young winery. It wasn't an established, winery at the time. It was still growing and getting established, and so it would have been very easy to just let it go. So that was not. No, I thought maybe a couple years she'll have fun with it, and then she'll realize how hard it is, and she'll say, "Forget this." Yeah, it's been incredible to watch. Incredible. And Jimmy would be just blown away, I think, by where it is. So, it's an amazing thing what she did. So
talk a little about the impact that Brooks has had under Janie's leadership on the industry.
Oh, gosh. Janie's been so busy. She has taken that winery and grown it into a really important part of our industry. It's a winery that shows, she's remained true to the dynamic ideals. She has maintained, this kind of mystical nature that he had there, which was really, really cool. And the emphasis on Riesling has been tremendous to this industry, I think, because there's a lot of passion about that varietal, but not always a lot of great examples out there, and Brooks has consistently been a great example of that varietal. She's been out in the world telling the story about Willamette Valley, she just travels all the time telling the story about Oregon and this area, and as a spokesperson representative for this region, it's been tremendous to have her here. I mean, she's a force. Like Jimi was, but in a different way. She's out in the world and very active on the messaging and PR and marketing side of it all. And then she has, this wonderful winery that is becoming a destination for people to come down and is getting known as the kind of the fun place to go. They're always doing fun things, and the atmosphere there is really great and feels good, and it's a beautiful spot. And so she's contributed a lot to this area, this industry, the tourism and so forth. Yeah.
What's your favorite memory of Jimi?
It's totally that. Well, gosh, there's a couple. But I think one of my favorite times with him was on this panel at IPNC, because it was me and Jimi and Rob Stewart and Steve Dorner, I think was the other one. And we were all supposed to present our wines and talk about what we did differently, right? And this was the '03 vintage, which was tremendously hot and very strange. And so it was very atypical. And I just remember Jimi just being so, we were all trying to kind of put the best face on it as far as like, it was a challenging year, that kind of thing that you say when it's really hard. And he was just so blunt about it, in front of this very formal IPNC crowd, and basically just said, I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never seen anything like this, and he was very, very real. It was just so real, and I really appreciated that, because he was just saying what we all felt. It was like we just trying everything. We were just throwing stuff at the wall, and that was kind of how he rolled. He at least he gave that impression that he was very laid back about it all. But when you got to know him, you realized he wasn't. He cared deeply, and he wasn't as laid back as he tried to show people. But the other real image and remembrance of Jimi is just his, at that last party that was so fun, when he was making this massive thing of paella. There's just bottles of vodka all over the place. It was just an incredible scene, and it was so much him. And I think he was in such a happy place because he had this great relationship. Pascal was doing great, and the winery was taking off, and it was all just working, and you could tell he was just happy. He was just a happy, generous guy.
Why do you think the story of Jimi Brooks resonates with so many people?
Because it's real. It's a real story. It's not something that somebody made up for a marketing thing. It's a real story, and I think that's why it resonates, is because he was a real character, and that kind of attracted people to him, anybody that knew him. And he had such a strong vision that was very attractive, and he was doing it the way he wanted to do it. And that's always, whether he had died or not, that was going to be a great story. What he was doing was great. And then to have, then he dies, and his sister, does this amazing, generous thing of coming back and taking it over. It's just unreal. And it's a real story. That's why it resonates, because people came together, they helped out. It's succeeded. I mean, beyond anybody's wildest dreams, I think. I think people like those kind of stories, that are happy endings in a way. And people have followed through on what they said they were going to do. So it's a remarkable story.